Hi, I'm Governor Rod Blagojevich, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about that.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. Glad you could be with us today. Today my guests are Holocaust survivor Morris Goldner. Morris, welcome to the show. And author Larry Stillman. Larry, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Larry has written a book called A Match Made in Hell. And this is a book based on the testimony of Mr. Morris Goldner and his experiences of surviving the Holocaust. Morris, tell me, you as a Jewish boy in Poland, growing up, the Nazis came in, you made some decisions that were tough to make and beat the odds. What makes your story different from other Holocaust survivors? Because everyone has a story. It's an amazing thing that anyone could survive the atrocities of Eastern Europe during World War II, of the Nazis. What makes your story a novel, as it is, and a true story yet?
The story, what made me do that is I'm the only survivor from all these people that we traveled to from all the villages to one town. And all these people that were in that particular group, they never made it.
And where was this from? Where did you come from exactly?
I came in from we were living in a village. 2 Jewish families, but some villages had 2 and 1 and 3. When they formed the ghettos, they did not bother us for quite a while, until one morning they came to the door and knocked on the door. My mother opened up the door, and he tells her just to take a little something, bread and little clothing, and that she won't eat anything. But if there's any money or gold, they should turn over. Mm-hmm. But if you don't give them, if you decided not to give them, if they find it, he says, we'll kill you. Mm-hmm. My mother must have been brave enough. She didn't answer it. Like she pretended she didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. What town were you in?
Near Dębica, called Straszęcin.
Larry?
Yes, sir.
You met Morris and heard his story, and you said, I can tell your story for you in writing. How does one go about hearing someone's story and turning it into a book as you've done? Because many times you see co-authored books, many times you see a biography written about someone. Here, he was really your one-on-one source as you wrote this book. How did it come to be?
Well, I first heard his story through a videotape. He had just done a tape for Spielberg's Shoah Foundation. And he talked for about 40 minutes and told a number of elements of his time in the forests of Poland. And he told me, he said, this will give you the background on what I went through. He said, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. And about 200 hours of interviews later, I realized that it was just the tip of the iceberg. It was an incredible story. What drew me to it, well, first I thought, actually, to answer your question, it was going to be maybe a magazine article, a nice long magazine article. The more I got into listened to him talk, and the more we dug out some of his feelings and things that happened, I realized that this was a book. And what really made it unique to me, what really drew me to it, was the fact that it wasn't just what this man went through, which is enough in its own right, but the fact that he was saved from near death by a Polish criminal, a bandit who had been notorious before the war for his exploits, and the two of them hid together for 18 months, and this man became a mercenary during the war and used Morris to do acts of sabotage against the Nazis. And these two personalities, this quiet, sheltered, formerly sheltered boy from a Polish farming village and this crass gangster. The two personalities, I realized that here was something that never has been told before in the annals of Holocaust, to the best of my knowledge.
Now, you, growing up Jewish, did you do a lot of Holocaust reading on the Holocaust and situations of World War II? Were you a World War II scholar or history scholar?
No, actually, I was interested in the Holocaust because my background, thank God my family came before the war, but, every Jew was touched by the Holocaust, of course. But no, I never did the kind of reading until I got into his life, because I wanted to put, he knew a lot of the things that he did, incredible exploits, but he had no framework of politics around them, the partisan groups, the warring partisan groups who were fighting each other as much as they were fighting the Germans, and I wanted to put everything into context, so I dug into the history.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Morris, tell me something. In your book, you tell that you actually were under your father's body when he was murdered. Can you tell me how that came about?
We didn't have much food. One morning he gets up and tells me, "Look, son, if we won't have any bread and nourishing things," he said, "we're not going to make it." So he says he decided to see a friend. So at night we took a walk and see his best friend. What a price to pay. He knocked on the window and tell him, "Stashek, we didn't have a piece of bread for about a year. If the war will end," he says, "I'll repay you 1,000,000 times over and over again." He says, "Would you do us that favor?" He says, "Sure." He took us in the kitchen. He went for bread and milk. And all of a sudden I see he keeps 2 pieces of rope on his neck. I was wondering what was all this about. What did he do? He grabs my father, ties it to a chair, and he says, "What are you doing? You're my best friend." He says, "I have to turn you in." He says, "I'm the starosta," like he's the mayor of the village. He says, "Well, I won't tell anybody." He says, "No, I have to turn you in." So he tied us up both, kept us till morning, took us to a station, and put it against the wall. And they were waiting for a train to arrive, which it did. And the soldier came out and tell this Polish guy, he says, "I don't think we might win this war, but if we lose," he says, "I wouldn't want to be in your shoes." He says, "Well, kill them Jews." He didn't pay attention to him. Apparently the soldier cared more about us than he did. And by the time they got through, I probably was so scared that I must have fainted. I didn't know what happened. When I woke up, I realized I was all full of blood. I pulled myself out, and there was I started going from the station, then pulled myself all the way to the tree, to the little bushes, and a man comes in and grabs me around, takes his jacket, wraps me around with his shirt, and he carries me, and he says, "Before we go any further," he says, hear what I'm going to tell you. If you keep your mouth shut, ears open, do what I tell you," he said, "we might both make it." What choice did I have?
So you woke up and your father was dead on top of you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my. Larry, tell me, as the author of the book and knowing this story so well, what makes Morris's story compelling to the reader? What makes it compelling to the person hearing the story that would find it most unique and most thrilling in its reading, and at the same time bring out the compassion in us for Morris and his friend and their escapades?
Well, this may sound cliche, but I would, in a short sentence, would say the triumph of the human spirit. What this man did to survive, not just hiding, but literally going out and actively participating against the Germans, because his protector, the man who had hideouts all over Poland, kept him alive, even though he was sending him on these dangerous missions. Morris had told me many times that I never expected I'd live through this. So every day was just trying to get through another day and maybe a chance to take somebody with him.
Can you give me some examples of the episodes that you wrote about that he went out against the Nazis?
There are two very dramatic ones and many slightly lesser dramatic. The most dramatic, I think, is the partisans built a compartment underneath a train of boxcars carrying Jews to Auschwitz. And Morris was built for Morris's body. He's 5 feet tall, short guy now, was a short guy then. And he hid in this compartment with a camera. And his mission was to go in and take photographs of the concentration camp and come back out with the film. He did. Another time, and I'll just tell the beginning of this, he got on board a troop train filled with German officers and posed as a shoeshine boy. He carried a shoeshine kit, but inside the kit was a bomb. And you can imagine what happens.
Wow. You're riding underneath this train and going in and out of the concentration camp. How did you keep hidden from others seeing you once you got out from under the train in this compartment that was built for you?
Well, I have seen when the soldiers told arouse, they got out. Everybody got out of the train. It was quiet by the train. I slipped myself out of the hole, came in. All I had to do is just keep pressing the box. That's it, and then make sure that nobody was around. And the type of camera was given, that camera must have been well prepared. What type of and I didn't know nothing about cameras. All they told me what to do and how to hold it, and that's what. I make sure that I got back under it because I was afraid if the train takes off without me, I'm just as good. I'm just as worse off than. Well, anyway, the train pulled out, and I traveled the same amount of distance, figuring if the train goes back the same way it came, I'm lucky. But who knew? I didn't. So I got off a little too early. It took me a day and a half to come back to the place where I started.
Mm-hmm. We're here on Taped with Rabbi Doug with author Larry Stillman and Holocaust survivor Morris Goldner talking about their book, A Match Made in Hell. And stay with us. We'll be right back.
I am an American. I am an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
I am
an American.
I am an American.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American.
I'm an American.
I am American.
I am an American.
I'm an American.
I am an American.
I am an American.
People who use meth rarely sleep, but they still have nightmares.
Hi, I'm Robbie Benson. You're watching Tape with Rabbi Doug.
Welcome back to Taped with Rabbi Doug. I'm here with Morris Goldner, who is a Holocaust survivor. I'm here with Larry Stillman, who is the author of Morris's story in the book A Match Made in Hell, The Jewish Boy and the Polish Outlaw Who Defiled the Nazis. You're going in and out with this camera, riding the train. Tell me, let's jump ahead. What happened to these pictures that you took?
Well, I gave it back to to Copeland, and he got money for it because he had eight kids to support. He was interested more in money than anything else, and that's probably they paid him well for it.
But you became friends with him. You were a partner in crime, per se.
Partner in crime.
How interesting.
The worst part was going to that camp is the screaming and the filth and everything else, and listen to all that and figuring my mother and sister might have been going the same way.
Yeah, I can imagine. Were there any other survivors from your family besides yourself?
My uncle survived, but he was not with the partisans. He was hiding. He had a brother that the Russian accidentally had killed him, that he was hidden in the ground, and they told him to get out. Wasn't fast enough, so they shot him.
Tell me something. You went through all these escapades. Besides the time that you and your father were tied up by this man who he had thought was his friend, was there any other time that you were actually captured and escaped?
Me?
Yeah.
I was never captured.
Never captured.
Never captured.
Isn't that amazing? Because in many survivor stories, there were stories of them being captured and escaping, or you know, being stopped and then talking their way out of their situation. Larry, can you tell me what was a time that you think Morris could have almost been captured from his story, and actually he was able to somehow or another finagle his way out of it?
There were several. The first one is when his family was taken. I guess you could call it capture, although it was they didn't know it at the time. They thought they were just being relocated, I think was the euphemism. And with the German action in this town where his grandparents were murdered in front of his eyes, where the women were separated eventually to go on boxcars, and the men were standing around waiting to see what was going to happen to them. Of course, they were going to use them for a while, the strong ones, and weed out those who weren't. Morris simply got up and walked away. He was 15, 16 years old then, but he was short, and he looked like about a 7, 8, 9-year-old. So he sidled up to some of the Polish kids and just who were watching with fascination, horror, whatever, and just walked away. Another time he got daring and was walking into the village to try and find something to steal to eat, and a German officer came up to him and asked what he was doing there, and he thought real fast, and he spoke some German, and of course they right away questioned, how do you know German? And he made up some lie about, well, it was taught in school, etc. He talked his way out of that. So he had a few. He had some wits about him.
Oh, you're an amazing person. What do you think was I know there were a lot of times you said, I can't believe I survived, or I can't believe I'm still alive. What do you think was the one moment, if there was one moment you had to choose, that you said, I will never make it?
Well, when I came back from the train trip, I lie down and I look above. I says, where did I go wrong? What did I do to anyone? Why am I being punished? Kids playing, watching through a forest, kids playing, laughing, going about their business. I've been hiding in a forest. I always ask myself the same question, and that's the menace. Ask myself, why was I born in times like those? It's tough even today to go back and rehash this all the time. I do this 2-3 times a week in school, and it's hard.
I'm sure. I'm sure it is. Did you ever think yourself that you would be able to? I know that you did do your video with Steven Spielberg for the Shoah. Can you tell me? Was there a time that you thought that you could write down your words yourself?
I tried before I met Larry, and someone did come about. But I've been working 50, 16 hours a day. I was busy. I started with nothing. I became a designer and had 3 youngsters. They were going to school. I was too busy even to think about. And this was the greatest thing for me to make it up to this point. Mm-hmm. Being busy and doing the right thing, going the right way, going the straight line. And if there's men above, be that way.
Let me jump ahead, because I hate to jump up and back so much, but there's so many questions that are running through my mind. How did you end up in Chicago? What happened? Where were you when the war ended? How did you find yourself a free man to come out of hiding and this running that you've been doing for so long? And how did you end up in Chicago?
Well, after the war, first of all, I joined the Russian after 6 months. We broke the line, the partisans rather, and 99 out of 100, they did not make it. Mm-hmm. I was practically the only one, or maybe another fellow. I jumped underneath the tank, and the tank saved me between the Russian Katyusha and the German artillery being right in the middle. There was no survivors. But the men fell on top of me underneath the tank, and when I got up, He didn't make it. It's full of blood. There was a Russian. The Russian came in through the tank, and he says to me, "Еврей." I says, "Yeah, that means Jewish."
Hebrew, a Jew.
They walked out. He grabs me around, takes me to the headquarters, and I met one of the officers, and he says, "How you made it is beyond me." He said, "Well, we'll take care of you." I stayed with the Russians until they gave up the German push all the way to Berlin. I stayed with them. I came back. I wanted to take care of my friend, my father's friend, which I was going to the one uncovered there to the other one. It's a secret police. One sent me to another, so I got tired. I went one day, I took a couple grenades, and I threw in the house. Well, that didn't go too well with the Russians. Yeah, they did put me in jail. I sat there for 3 or 4 days. And all of a sudden, they let me out. They take me in the office and talk to the officer. "I didn't know you were in jail." "Not you." I says, "Yeah, that's me." Well, I was very upset, and I did the wrong thing there with him, too. So he says, "Don't say nothing." I says, the war's got years. He says, "I got plans for you." I says, "All right." We made plans. He told me, he found out that he was a Jewish man, and he's gonna run away on the American son. He says, and he made the plans with me, and
to come to America.
No.
To
First we have to go. First we have to come. There were Germany was divided in 3 parts: America, Russia, and England.
Right.
And we had to go to the Russian to come on the American side. But we had to travel on a train, on the roof, 40 degrees temperature. We've been like that probably for 6 hours before we arrived to the line of the Russian, to the Russian to go through. And I came to the Germany, and after that, I joined Hanoi Hatziyanim. It's a kibbutz, because Israel wasn't born in Israel; it was born in Germany. All the survivors that, and I was one of 200. Well, anyway, that's how I came on the American zone. But then the plans were to go to Palestine, and there were 2 fellows approached me, and he says, you speak Czechoslovakian, Hungarian, Polish, and all this. We could use somebody to go with us to look for young fellows like you." And I said, I came from there.
Don't want to go
I said, I did. I said, well, I have nothing to lose. I already lost everybody. So I did go.
You did go.
And then I came back, and then we were interrogated by the MPs, because England, in the United States, England was telling the United States to stop the flow to Palestine. When anybody that got captured, they put them on Cyprus.
Right.
Well, instead of going on Cyprus, one morning a jeep pulls in, takes me to Bremen Harbor, putting on a Marina Fletcher, and that was my end of the ball game. I wind up in New York City.
And eventually in Chicago.
And eventually in Chicago.
What an amazing story. Larry, we only have a few minutes left. What do you think, Morris, what do you think his most courageous episode was in this whole story? Obviously, he was a young boy, so everything he did was courageous.
Right.
But what do you think was the most courageous episode that stands out in the whole story?
You know, that's a hard question to answer. Every adventure was, like you said, was courageous. I think just finding the courage to stay alive. I mean, I'm not going to even point to an adventure, for lack of a better term. Just having the guts and the determination to try and fight when so many around him just gave up. And you know, I'm not sure what I would have done in a situation like that. But there's some strong will to live that this man had, and he did what he was told in terms of going into even more danger as far as taking on the Germans. So I would have to answer that with no one incident. I think just waking up every morning and saying, I'm going to get through the day was courage enough.
And I must say that it must take a lot of courage even today to get up and speak about this on a regular basis, to relive it in your mind as you do so often. How did you meet your wife, and where did you meet her?
Oh, I have a cousin that he was a major in the United States Army, and he was affiliated with B'nai B'rith, and he became an officer and the president. Well, anyway, he told me I used to go part-time. No, I used to go 6 months to regular school. Then I finished that. Anyway, he approached me. He said, Moshe, that's not the way it's done in America. He says, you have to go out and live a little. He says, we sponsor a dance. And I went to a dance, and that's how I met her.
How many years have you been married?
54 years.
54 years. Can I know?
I have three beautiful young ladies. They are administrators, they're teachers, and wonderful. I got 8 grandchildren.
Wonderful. And how old are you, may I ask?
I'm going 77 years old.
77 years old. Well, all I can say to you is that for all you've done in 77 years, you should live to 120 in good health. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show. It's a pleasure to be your friend. People don't know, my viewers don't know that I see you every week, and I was honored to meet you and hear your story and to have you on the show today. Larry, thank you so much for coming and helping share Morris's story. And I know that anybody who reads A Match Made in Hell will find his story just most amazing. Author Larry Stillman, Holocaust Survivor Morris Goldner, I can't thank you both enough for being on the show today. I want to thank you, all my viewers, for watching as I do every week. Remember, we're on every week at this time. Hope to see you next time right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.
Slach